Thanks. We're drawing to an end. I know there's one or two speakers, and thanks, Mark. That was a very great speech. We often call ourselves La Resistance in Jersey. I know that's the term that Lucas likes to use. But sometimes you feel a little bit like perhaps a green campaigner against oil in Saudi Arabia. It's not a topic that really goes down particularly well there, and it's finance here is not easy to criticise, even if you're doing it constructively, because obviously we're all making our living from it one way or the other. But it's important to be reminded that we do want an ethical finance industry, and we do want a system whereby during difficult times, actually, those who can pay the most do pay the most. I wasn't going to speak, but very quickly what I will say is it's the irony, whether it's due to the recession in the UK around the rest of the world, whether it's due to 0-10, the whole policies here, these are things that have been caused by the rich, by an elite, by the super wealthy, and it's had perverse consequences globally. And also 0-10 is just a small microcosm of what's happening around the world. It's a tax which has been introduced, a tax system which benefits the rich. Unfortunately, it's the ordinary workers who are being forced to pay for it, and we're supposed to be one of the wealthiest islands, wealthiest jurisdictions in the world. So we're really just here to say no, enough is enough, actually. Even if we didn't have progressive taxation where the rich paid more, if they actually paid some, or some of these companies which are zero rated, that would actually help. That would be a start. I think one of our last speakers is going to be Deputy Daniel Wimberly, and it's nice to see a few States members here this afternoon. So Daniel, if you'd like to say a few words.
Oh yeah, do I get an umbrella?
Well, do you need one?
The important thing about what Mark said was there are alternatives. And I think you get stuck with Tina. There is no alternative, and that is the right-wing mantra. You have to do it this way. Well, you don't have to do it this way. And someone mentioned tourism. We could have a rejuvenated tourism industry if it wasn't squeezed out by finance. And over the last 2 decades, inflation has been higher in Jersey than in the UK and in our markets. So tourists have tended to go elsewhere because Jersey's been getting more and more expensive, and that's because of the cost pressure coming from finance. And there are other ways of developing our economy. But what I wanted to say was, the main thing I want to say is, how are we governed? That's what we're here about today. How are we governed? And badly, said someone, badly. And how can it be done for the benefit of all islanders? And I want to put one thing in front of you. If you don't remember anything else of what I say, just remember this image. And what I'm talking about in general is this low tax thing that we get. We've got to be a low tax island. And indeed, Senator Shenton, in a recent proposition, I just read it, he said, we have always been a high, what did he say? A high spend, low tax, high spend island. And it's simply untrue. We've been a low tax, low spend island. And one of the consequences is, and this is what you've got to remember, is Belazan. For the last 15 years, that chimney has been polluting the island, has been poisoning islanders. And 15 years ago, there was a proposal to put gadgets in the chimney to clean the gases that come out of that chimney, of the dioxins and of all the other nasties that come when you shove everything in, which is what TTS were doing at the time. Did the states vote the money? No. So what came out of that chimney for the last 15 years has been unfiltered, ghastly toxins that affect people's health. Have they done any surveys to see whether the health of islanders downwind from Belazan is worse than the health of islanders upwind? No. Would they want to find out? No. And that's just an example of where low tax, low spend takes you. We live in a complicated society, we buy complicated things, and when you destroy them, then they produce real nasties, and it can't be done that way. You just have to take the hit and put those scrubbers into the chimney. That's one example. And another example is that in Pomme d'Or Farm, there's just been, again, a proposition. People have been living in that estate, which is, again, under Belazan, and they have been living for the last 10 years in conditions which the housing minister himself says are unacceptable. For 10 years. but we haven't got the money to allow those people to live in proper conditions. So Deputy Green's just had to bring a proposition to bring forward that work and say, do it now. But it should have been done 10 years ago. And here's another thing that should have been done before, which is setting money aside for our sewerage system. We've now got a bill looming over the horizon for £150 million. It's going to come out of our pockets. It has to. We have to have a sewage system that's not crumbling. We have to have sewage pumps that work and pipes that don't leak, and a sewage farm up at Bellazan that's not 50 years old and falling apart. We have to spend that money, but we should have collected it over the good times, put it in the pot, ready for when we're going to spend it. What have we done? We've said tomorrow, or rather, they've said, the old party, the right wing have said, tomorrow, we'll do that tomorrow, we'll pay for that tomorrow. The Ageing Society, same thing, we'll do that tomorrow. Well, tomorrow's become today. And they are going to come and charge taxes to all of us in the middle of a recession. That's really clever thinking. That money should have been in the pot before. I'm not going to do the sort of we can live on a low tax basis. We can't. The government needs to spend more on social facilities, on public facilities. You cannot have a sewage system for nothing. And you cannot have care for old people for nothing. But you can take the money more intelligently and you can take it in good time. Now, the other thing I want to say is about spin and about dishonesty. The only way we're going to get through, and somebody mentioned that the finances of the island are in a mess. Well, they are. And the finances worldwide are in a mess because of where the finance industry and not necessarily the one in Jersey, but where America first and then the whole global credit crunch. So, and that's going to cause a drop in the amount of wealth that we all have. And that's permanent. So we have to be clever and we have to get together, government, states workers, public, taxpayers, business, everybody's got to actually sort this out together. And we can't do it if we're lied to. You can't even trust what they say. Other speakers have pointed out some of the dishonesty, some of the way the debate is framed to tell you that taxes must be low and that we are not spending very much. Oh, and by the way, the states are profligate. The states waste your money. It's just not true. There are pockets where it could be done better. There are always pockets, and I think it was Ted Biber pointed out, no, it was Tony Keough right at the beginning said, of mistakes that have been made. But the fact is that we actually need to work out how we're going to do all this together. Now, one of the lies that they said was, Ozu, at the beginning of this comprehensive spending review, he said, let's have a big debate with the public. And the very next thing he said was, the states have spent 30% more over the last 5 years. It wasn't true. Half of that was inflation. 16 million of that was accountants transferring from capital to revenue. So it was a straightforward lie. Some of that money wasn't even an increase at all. But that's what he said. 30% increase over the last 5 years. And they did it again. The Small Society came out, put posters all over town saying that the states spend twice as much now as they did 10 years ago. Straight lie. And if you look in the newspaper, I think it was last night or the night before, Kevin Keane has now changed that figure from 100% more to 35% more. 100%? 35%? Did somebody whisper in his ear that he hadn't got it right the first time? Why did they say 100% if it was really 35%? What did they take us for? I had to write emails and stuff pointing out that 100% was a lie. And then I got challenged and I would send them back saying this is why it's not true. We can't have an honest discussion like that. And that's what I want. I want the states workers, the government, business, taxpayers, we've got to sort this together. There's got to be cleverer ways of doing things, like with transport. You have to have community buses right out in the sticks, not great big 40-seaters going out to Devil's Hole with one person, which is me, on it, and that's twice a week. That's not sensible. Surely to goodness we can find a way of bringing people to the parish hall to get on the bus if they can't get there themselves. And, you know, there are clever ways, there are community ways of doing things. I hope we can work together better, but to do that we have to have some honesty from out there. And I'll give you one wonderful example, which is that Terry LeSueur was told before the debate on the incinerator, he was told about the euro risk by his own Treasury Department. What did he tell you? What do you know from the paper? That the Treasurer cocked it up.
Yes.
No, he didn't.
But the Treasurer's own second or third in command had told Terry 3 days before the debate, this is what the risk is, this is what it'll cost you to get rid of the risk. Did that appear in the report and proposition?
No.
No. Did the state's members know about it? No. Did that ever come out? No. Now, I'm not going to take him to task for it yet because there's still the budget debate and I'm kind of busy. But next year, watch this space, because he lied about that to PAC, Public Accounts Committee, and I shall do something about it, because you're not allowed to lie to states committees and blame the Treasurer when it was you who had your fingers in his ears. So I think that's about it. Can't think of anything else to say, so. But it does depend on us all working together, and that depends on trust.
That's right.
Thanks. Thank you, Daniel. We've essentially finished. Just permit me just to say a couple of words. First of all, I think it's essential that we as individuals do come together. It's a very difficult task, but we can arm ourselves because we are actually in a struggle here. But it's not a conventional struggle where we use conventional weapons. It's all to do with information, it's to do with arguments, it's to do about wit, it's to do about also building up a momentum, and to know actually which candidates and which politicians are the ones you can trust, which are the ones that you cannot trust. When I challenged Senator Ossoff in the States about his what I saw as lies, but certainly about the broken promises about GST, saying I will not increase GST, I can give a categorical assurance that I won't do that. He did it twice, once before the election, once in the States when he was getting elected for Treasury Minister. He said, oh, when the facts change, I change my mind. But actually what I said to him is that your mind may have changed, but you haven't changed your spots. Because you know that that's typically what you would expect from that type of politician. They're there for the wealthy. It's important to remember that we have two jerseys. There are two jerseys, and it's not simply what about the rich and the poor, the haves and the have-nots. It's about how you define Jersey. Rallies like this are traditionally criticised because they're anti-Jersey. And when speeches in the House, if they even suggest that perhaps finance might pay a little bit more tax, that 11Ks and the super wealthy might also bring inconveniences and societal problems, we're immediately branded as being anti-Jersey, and that's because they've got the wrong concept. For them, Jersey is the finance industry, and the finance industry is Jersey. But there is also another Jersey, which is society. It's the hospitals, it's schools, it's education, it's the roads, it's the sewers, etc. All the things which you may or may not see, but that we all depend on, including industries. And it is not one single industry that defines Jersey, rather it is the people and the workers, the families who pay tax that are the backbone of Jersey society, like any society. And it's only once we've made this distinction, it's only once that government over there and the states members in that government actually start to realise that's what Jersey is. We're here to run for a society, a democratic society, that any real change will come. So what can you do? You can lobby your state's member. It's very easy in Jersey to do that. Pick up a phone, send an email, write a letter. And the more lobbying that they get, and they do get it from all sorts of people, but usually it's the IOD who are very well organised, the Chamber of Commerce, etc. States members will sit up and take notice, especially when there's an election looming within the next few months. Ladies and gentlemen, I've said enough. I thank all the speakers. I thank also, there's a guy here called Jordan Delap. He did compose a song especially for today. Fortunately, he's not been able to perform it due to the weather, and I hope you do get to perform that very soon for us, and maybe we'll see it online.